Ladies and gentlemen, another episode of Business Therapy Hub. Make sure you press subscribe button, it's gonna be interesting. Let's go.
But I kind of had to fend for myself, make my own decisions, my own opportunities in life.
What about your motivation back in the days?
Was I wanted to be the best. I think that's a dangerous place to be because with that comes arrogance. That was very ego-driven motivation, and you can't be the best if your team don't like you or don't support your decisions. And that's something that I've learned along the way, is that I want to have the best team. It doesn't matter about me now.
What was that surprise moment when you say, wow, that actually works?
The first one is definitely linked to social media. It was seafood barbecue and bouillabaisse, and we've done 2 or maybe 3 social media posts, and 180 people turned up. We'd completely underestimated the reach of the social channels, so that was the real moment where I thought, wow. 10 years ago when I first started, it wasn't like this.
It wasn't like this?
No, I think we were lucky really. COVID allowed us to make changes like this down here.
Okay.
It forced us to do food all day in the restaurant. So before we'd do breakfast for non-residents in the bar only, and then we'd do food service 12 till 2 and 6 till 9. Now we do food all the way, all day.
Okay.
And there is a real appetite for people dining in the afternoon, early evening. So. And, you know, on the back of COVID, everybody wanted to dine and people calling up, can I have a table? Sorry, we're full. Fit me in wherever. Oh, we've only got 4 o'clock available. Oh, okay, I'll take it. So we've sort of found that after 8, people not necessarily going out, but in the day, sort of like that early evening trade has sort of boomed a bit, and breakfast is getting a lot busier as well.
Okay. But the location like this, it's in a village, right?
Yeah, small village.
Where is the nearest town here? Kingsley?
Fakenham, Kings Lynn.
Okay. Anyway.
So yeah, rural, very rural.
Yeah.
I was thinking on the way in, it's like how busy we get for how rural we are. It's, you know, it's extraordinary really.
There is.
You know, you have to travel. There's no motorway in Norfolk.
No, nothing.
You know, people aren't just passing through and stopping off. They if they're coming to see you, they're driving to you.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously the surroundings, which, you know, we're lucky that, you know, we've got a great community of people that will drive 2, 3, 4 hours to come and have lunch or dinner or stay over. So
nice.
Lucky.
Anyway, before everything started here, let's begin with your childhood. All right?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. Who you were as a child?
I think I was quite a shy, timid boy, really.
Shy?
Yeah, really shy. The sort of family situation meant that I didn't have a huge amount of support. No disrespect to my parents, but I kind of had to fend for myself.
Fend for yourself?
Yeah, and make my own decisions and, you know, my own opportunities in life. But yeah, I was shy. I felt I was always very smart and intelligent, but I didn't have the social skills necessarily to feel like I was accepted. And then obviously, you know, as you grow up, you learn more about yourself and how people react to you and the way you are, and you adapt, and, you know, it's all part of the journey really. But yeah, shy, quiet.
Doesn't look like actually.
Not now, no.
Not now, yeah.
Not now.
Do you remember what was that like turning point for you, where you open yourself to others or start interacting?
I think in high school, halfway through high school, you know, the early first 2 years.
Yeah.
Still shy, got picked on a bit, you know, wore hand-me-down clothes and, you know, a bit of a geek.
Okay.
But then, yeah, around year 9, so what's that, 14 years old, you know, you have a lot of development in your body and your hormones, and I think from then on, I gained a lot more confidence, started playing a lot more sport, got involved with girls, and then, yeah, I think from that was the kind of turning point, and then I was less focused on work, on school, and being a bit mischievous.
Mischievous.
Yeah, kind of going off
What does
track.
that mean? Tell us more about this.
Kind of a bit naughty, really,
Naughty,
and
yeah,
yeah,
okay,
sort of
that's the
staying
word
out
to
late,
describe.
not going home.
Yeah.
You know,
Wild teens, right?
yeah, like drinking beers
Yeah.
while you're 14 years old. And
What about the school where you was like most engaged and where you feel out of place about learning subjects? What do you like the most to learn?
so I think most engaged was definitely around sport and PE.
Sport and PE.
Sport and PE, yeah, being active. I gained a lot of confidence from that. You know, I was sort of top 3 in a lot of activities, which really gave me a lot of confidence, and that was quite addictive, and that was an escape from, you know, being a shy boy. You know,
So-
you can express yourselves in sport, and if you're doing well, you kind of get judged and praised. So,
Yeah.
So definitely sport. That helped me sort of, you know, being in a team with people who respected you because you were good at, you know, football or running or swimming. And then I got voted games captain, which obviously gave me a lot more confidence because then it allowed me to develop my leadership skills.
What games? Football?
No. So anything sport related. I was the captain, sort of like, you know, 16 years old, 15 years old, and
A captain.
yeah. So the person sort of like you have set into different teams or tutors, they'd call them, and I was the games captain for my tutor for the whole school.
Okay.
So I would pick who would do specific sports day, swimming gala, cross country, and it gave me a bit more responsibility quite early on.
So that was your confidence building.
That's what
beginning.
built the confidence, and I think that was when I first sort of realised I had some leadership skills. Yeah.
And what about where you feel like not yourself? What was your thing where you don't want to learn or something? Out of place, you know?
Where I felt out of place.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, that's a hard one. I think certainly the first 2 or 3 years I felt out of place everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, for the
Okay.
first 2 or 3 years in high school. And sort of socially I didn't do a lot outside of school until the sport came along.
Yeah.
And that's what really helped develop the confidence. So yeah, kind of didn't feel necessarily comfortable in class talking to people, and that social aspect was the most uncomfortable part. So yeah.
Let's go to your first earnings then.
First,
First earnings.
Yeah.
What was your first money? How did you earn your first money?
so when I was still at school, I worked in a local pub collecting glasses.
Collecting glasses.
Yeah.
Oh.
Really fisherman's pub. No food, just beers, with all the locals in there on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday. That was back in the time where you could smoke in pubs. I was on £5 an hour, which was good back then. You know, I was 15 years old, so over 20 years ago. And I used to do about 15 hours over the weekend. And I didn't pay tax because I was too young.
Yeah.
And I think my first paycheck was 75 quid.
75. That was a lot of money back in the days.
That was a lot of money. Well, I felt like it was a lot of
Yeah.
money. You know, that first one that
Did you
comes
feel
in.
rich?
Yeah, I felt good. I felt this is going to open a whole world of possibilities,
Yeah.
this 75 quid.
And what you bought for those money?
2 pairs of trainers and a coat.
2 pairs of trainers and a coat.
Yeah.
Okay.
A pair of white Nike trainers, a pair of
White.
Nike shocks, which were silver. And then I've got this coat, and I was going to the school disco, and I felt like $1 million.
Nice. So that was a good experience for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about this something about yourself that others wouldn't believe? So, for example, from where I see you are now, I couldn't say that you was a shy guy.
Yeah, so really suffered a lot with anxiety, social anxiety when I was, outside of the sport. you know, I used to really feel quite sick about doing social activities. And I even avoided going to my own birthday party because
Wow.
I was that anxious.
So that sounds like a bit of introvert.
Yeah, yeah. It was, yeah, very introverted. You know, outside of my small circle of friends and the odd girl, you know, very introverted.
Yeah.
Which was, you know, that was a big challenge, really. And that I think that sort of held me back doing a lot of things. You know, I didn't go to college, or I went to college for 2 days. And sort of socially, I really struggled. So I dropped out of college. And then started to go, you know, found a part-time job, ironically in hospitality, which you're then forced to be sociable. You know, that's part of the job. And
You have to interact with customers. Right?
100%. And, you know, in the early days, looking back now, I could see that I wasn't very good at it.
You wasn't?
No. You know, young sort of 16, 17-year-old, you know, running plates to tables, you just put the plate on the table and run away. It wasn't, I don't think I was very good at it looking back.
Yeah. What next after the pub?
So after the first pub, I worked that job and I worked as a leisure attendant in the local gym.
Leisure attendant.
Yeah, so checking people into the gym,
Yeah.
showing them how to use the machines. I wasn't qualified to be a fitness instructor, but this was sort of like a step down from that. So I was still involved in that sport aspect, and it was good money at the age of 17. But there wasn't lots of hours and there wasn't lots of opportunity in rural North Norfolk to expand that career. So from there, I went into working in a pub in Wells next to sea as a barman. And
Again, social interaction.
yeah, learned more interaction, copied people who were good
Mirroring.
at it. Yeah, and then sort of developed the social skills from there. So in terms of sort of social skills, quite a late bloomer really. So yeah, worked there and was very keen,
Yeah.
and lots of hours, earned good money, going out partying a lot. You know, that was back in the, you know, mid 2000s, you know, 2006, 2007, where there was still a good clubbing scene. So we'd drive to Norwich every night, which was an hour and a half, not drinking, but partying and then going back to work the next day.
And full of energy.
And still full of energy, yeah.
Serving people.
I wouldn't be able to do it today.
How old are you, by the way?
37, I was 37 last week, yeah.
All right. Oh, congratulations.
Thank you, yeah.
Every journey have a friction, right?
Yeah.
What was your setback? Where you realize, fuck, I'm not doing it right.
So from the pub in Wales, I went to work in quite a prestigious hotel at the time in Burnham Market. And one thing happened, a couple of things happened, and I got promoted very quickly. Mm-hmm. And over promoted really. I didn't have the skills, I didn't have the people skills, and I thought I did. And people walked out, this one lady threw a croissant at me, said fuck you, and walked out and left. And she'd been there, you know, a couple of years. And, you know, on reflection, I must have been doing something wrong to, you know, extract that negative reaction.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of friction, is I was over promoted and I had lots of responsibility that I didn't know how to deal with at the time, which is all part of the journey, you know, and you have to learn from your mistakes.
That's it.
And you know, I like to think that those interactions and incidents shape the leader that I am today.
So what would be that advice? Do not be overconfident when you are a beginner.
It's hard. I think it's first of all, learn from your mistakes.
Learn from the mistakes.
You have to learn quite quickly to survive and to excel. But I think the advice is listen, you know, don't jump to conclusions, don't act on impulse, you know, take a breath. I think that's the thing that I'm quite good at now, is analysing a situation before making a decision or before having a conversation, and don't act on emotion.
So stop and think. Would you say?
Yeah, stop and think.
That is not always easy, right?
Of
When you
course.
are on an impulse and you are young, it's not that easy to make decisions with the stopping and thinking, you know what I mean?
No, and I think had I had, you know, the right experience or the right training, then I probably would have reacted differently in those situations.
Yeah,
But that comes with the experience.
of course. Do you think you have to go through those negative experience to be the leader, to see all kind of colors of the business?
I think so. I think it's certainly an advantage if you make some
Advantage,
mistakes
yeah.
along the way. Yeah, absolutely. And as long as you take learnings from them.
What about your motivation back in the days? What was your motivation? How did you manage the bad emotions and stuff like that?
I think it's sort of the main motivation was I wanted to be the best.
You want to be the best.
Yeah, which
Nice.
I wanted to be the best. And I think that's a dangerous place to be, because with that comes arrogance. That was very ego-driven motivation. I wanted to be the best, not I wanted my team to be the best. And
You want to be the best.
I want to be the best. And you can't be the best if your team don't like you, or if your team don't support your decisions.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've learned along the way, is that I want to have the best team. It doesn't matter about me now. I want them to be the best. I want them to be empowered. I want them to make the decisions. I want them to be happy. I want them to shape the culture, you know, under guidance and direction.
What about the behavior in other people? What do you value the most?
I like commitment.
Commitment.
I like commitment and enthusiasm. I like empathy.
Empathy.
Yeah, understanding other people's emotions. I think that goes a long way. And you don't necessarily need to be the most talented or smartest person in the room, but persistence is key for me. You know, everybody's on their journey, and you know, not everybody's going to be at the same level, but if you care and you show up every day and you're persistent and you listen and you understand other people, that goes a long way with me.
So commitment.
Yeah.
And if you say, you have to deliver, right?
Yeah. You know, I like people to be trustworthy.
Trustworthy. Yeah.
You know, unreliable.
Okay.
Being reliable, that's a huge positive for me. You know, and it takes a while to earn that trust.
What is in the other people when you say to yourself, he's not gonna go far? What is the indicators of that?
I guess people who are not necessarily trustworthy, not committed. They don't listen. They don't understand other people's emotions.
How important is to listen?
I think it's one of the main, certainly in this line of work, listening to your peers, listening to the guests, listening to yourself as well, you know, understanding your own emotions. And just caring. I think, like, you can tell instantly, you know, within the first 5 minutes if somebody really cares.
Yeah.
You know, and if they don't care, you know they're not going to go far. But I guess everybody's on the journey, and back in the day, there were times where I've probably turned up and, you know, shown that I didn't care. But 10 years later, I'm very self-reflective, that I can look back then and be like, oh, that was a bad attitude. But I didn't know in that moment that was necessarily a bad attitude to have, you know, because everybody is out for themselves sometimes.
Yeah. So self-criticism, is that important? What do you think? How to not to slip to depression? How to keep that balance? What do you think?
What do you mean?
Like, you know, when you're talking to yourself, I did this bad,
Yeah.
I done this bad, and then negative thoughts comes to your head.
Yeah.
How to manage that?
It's hard. You know, sometimes you can't always manage it by yourself. You know, I'm very self-reflective, and that's caused, you know, a few issues over the years with sleepless nights, early mornings, you know, some anxious moments.
Yeah.
But luckily I'm surrounded by a great group of people. You know, I speak to a coach, you know, once every 6 weeks, sometimes more if I need to. You know, I've built a great network of people around me who support me that I know that I'm able to go to. Because before I had that network, it was, you know, sometimes a bit of a struggle, you know,
Yeah.
over-analysing every decision, every reaction, every interaction, and you beat yourself up about things. You just drive yourself crazy, and it's not healthy.
It is not.
It's not healthy, and you become exhausted by it and burnt out. I think that's the biggest risk, is that you burn yourself out. So you can't perform the best that you can if you've got all this weight on your shoulder. So being able to talk to a network of people, whether it's people you work with, friends, family, you know, professionals. You know, I've had therapy for anxiety and
Therapy about
therapy
anxiety.
for anxiety, yeah. And the first session was always the hardest, that first step. And now I would do it kind of naturally, because I know that to be a high performer, you need to, you know, be able to be confident to talk about your feelings and your emotions.
Yeah.
Because once you share them, you get a snippet of advice on how to manage it, or, you know, decisions to make. That gives you the motivation and the push to kind of push through a lot of that emotion.
In the therapy, you're talking about your feelings, your emotions, right?
Yeah.
And what would be the simple advice to anybody who's looking? Talk to somebody, yeah?
I think, yeah, just that you know, if you're sort of struggling with something, and you feel that you know there's no way out or there's no path forward, you know, just put one foot in front of the other and just keep doing that. You know, as long as you're moving forward, and it's okay to stop and have a break and have a breather. And if you feel like you're going nowhere, definitely pick up the phone. You can do it online. It's yeah, it's good to talk, I'd say. It's good to talk. I think that's the message. And for me, looking back, I kind of wish I'd done it sooner. You know, I wish I'd opened up about my emotions sooner to somebody, because it really held me back, I think.
What about your dream? What was your dream to become in the school?
Not to be anxious.
Not to be
That
anxious,
was
yeah.
the dream, not to be anxious. But I think I definitely wanted to do something within sport. You know,
Within sport, yeah.
Yeah, but then you learn quite quickly that without the right support and opportunity, you don't go far. You know, how many professional athletes do you know that you went to school with? You know,
Not a lot.
not a lot. So yeah, the dream was sport originally, and then to be free of anxiety. That was a dream, which sounds a bit you know, emotional. But yeah, I think I just wanted to be free of anxiety, because you carry that weight around with you quite a lot.
It is a big weight.
Yeah, it was a big weight. Yeah, certainly at the time.
Especially when you are young.
Yeah. And then, yeah, dreams. Again, I wanted to be a policeman, own a big house, you know, all those cliche things that kids or a society drives you to imagine. You know, want a nice car, a nice girlfriend, want to be rich. But
Okay, so you was about to be a sportsman, right?
yeah,
Okay. What about the moment you realize that you are not going to be a sportsman and you have to go to work? How was that?
I think, you know, going to college just for those 2 days and then dropping out.
After 2 days in college, you dropped out.
Dropped out, yeah, I think. And then it's like, right, I need to do something here. I need to go and earn some money and, you know, try and do something with my life. You know, and I didn't think, even when I first started in hospitality, I didn't think that was something I was going to do forever. It was just earn some money, go out to party, buy a car, you know, all those things that you do on that teenage journey. And then I got lucky with a promotion and more responsibility and started to develop those skills a bit more. And then another job came up within hospitality and I pushed myself to go for that.
You push yourself.
Yeah, you know, because I was in the comfort zone. I had a good job. People liked me. You know, I did well. But then somebody said, oh, those are hiring and that's better money than you're on.
Okay.
And it's a good position. And I'd always heard about this hotel. And I thought, I'll go for it. And went, had the interview, didn't think it went very well. And then a week later I got the call and I was hired. And then, so I went along, still quite anxious. I went along, saw somebody there that I went to school with, that gave me a bit of comfort. And yeah, the rest is history, really. Worked there for 4 years.
4 years.
And then I got a promotion. So basically the hotel took over. My boss got promoted, so then I took his role.
So you stepped in as a manager?
Food and beverage manager.
Food and beverage manager.
I was effectively number 2 in the hotel.
Number 2, okay.
Whilst they was looking for a general manager. And that was a lot of responsibility, which I enjoyed. You know, looking back, I learned a lot doing that. You know, there's no textbook to say this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. So you learn as you go. And then that's when I think I realised that this is what I want to do.
And the hospitality, right?
Yeah.
So that's where your journey into the hospitality started, in the hotel?
In the sort of hotel management, yeah. So I worked obviously in a restaurant and pub and bar. But when I got that additional level of responsibility, I think that's when I realised hospitality management is what I want to do now. And I kind of locked in for 2 or 3 years there, learnt some lessons, and it was hard. You know, I got croissants chucked at me and punched by a chef, and you know, all these wonderful things.
Yeah.
You know, that wouldn't happen in this day and age.
Punched by chef, yeah.
Yeah. And then.
And what is that what for? Why he punched you?
Just a disagreement on service.
Disagreement on service, okay.
Misunderstanding. He said one table number. The runner's taken the food to the wrong table. I said, you said this table number. He was adamant, he said the other one.
Only hot emotions.
And then, yeah. And then after that, I went travelling for a year.
Okay. Where did you travel?
We went to New Zealand.
New Zealand,
where I did work for 6 months in hospitality there. And then went to Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok. And then when I was in Bangkok, the job at the pub came up 10 years ago. And I knew a couple of people who worked here. So I sort of messaged them saying, would you put in a good word for me?
Okay.
And my boss, now she emailed me saying, can you come for a chat on Friday? I said, well, I'm in Bangkok for another couple of weeks. And I stepped off the plane on the Monday, came for a trial on the Friday, and 10 years later, I'm still here.
Wow. So you have a lot of different culture experience in hospitality, right?
Yeah.
Does that help you to bring the new ideas and makes you, feel confident that you can deliver more than usual pub?
I think it's given me good life experience. You know, hospitality is always evolving and different trends. we like to get out quite regularly to see what other people are doing, to try and get fresh ideas. Not necessarily to copy, but there's a few places that inspire us that we like to visit. Some absolutely brilliant operators out there.
Is it here in UK or somewhere else?
In the UK,
in
yeah.
the UK.
Food scene in London is amazing.
Yeah.
So we like to get down there frequently. Again, just to inspire. It could be a cocktail, it could be a dish, it could be a food trend, it could be a piece of crockery.
Yeah.
We're always learning and we're always trying to evolve and adapt and push forward. If not, you become stale and boring.
So what do you think, what is the best resource to learn in your industry? Visiting the other places? Or something else?
I think networking with people.
Networking.
Yeah, who share the same belief. Talking about the industry, the challenges, the problems, staffing issues, how do you deal with this? So, we're a pub group with 10 sites.
10 sites.
And just talking to the other managers, general managers, just the staff, what are you doing at your site? How would you attack this? How do you approach that? That is the best learning, is just talking to people and listening.
Networking, yeah.
And then I like to read. There's a really good book, which is hospitality focused, called Unreasonable Hospitality. Unreasonable Hospitality.
Okay.
By one of the most famous restaurateurs in the world, Will Guidara.
Yeah.
And whenever I feel like I'm lacking a bit of motivation or inspiration, I put that on the podcast, on the audio book, and just listen to a chapter or two. Just he's got such a way of describing and explaining things that it kind of just gives me that little pickup that I need I'm back in the game.
So there is a Bible.
It is, yeah. I don't know, it's a bit cliche because a lot of people read this book in the industry, but it is brilliant.
Okay, so 10 pubs. Is it all around the UK or focused on East England?
So we've got 4 in Norfolk.
4 in Norfolk.
We've got 4 in Norfolk. We've got 6 down in Hertfordshire, in and around Hitchin. So we're family owned. The family live in and around Hitchin.
Okay.
And they used to come up here on holiday 50 plus years ago. And that's when Cliff, who's going to be 80 this year, he saw this beaten up old pub on the coast come up for sale in 1996, 30 years ago.
1996.
And he took a punt on the coast. And yeah, look at it now.
Nice. Very nice. How many staff workers you have here? How many of you serving people?
So we've got about 110 in total.
100 only here?
Yeah.
110.
Yeah. Obviously that's quite seasonal. So we've got a really good core who stay with us throughout the year. And then we get the seasonal team who come in when it gets busy from Easter all the way through to October and then Christmas. So yeah, about 110 in total. 75 front of house, 25 chefs, housekeepers, reception, maintenance. Yeah, they're all big team.
That's really big team. What is challenging you the most within human resources? Is it to find the good waiters, to find the good chiefs?
We've been really lucky. We've really tried to look after people. So for the last few years, we've had a really good core team of management who are unbelievable. But recruitment has always been tricky.
Always tricky. Yeah.
Always tricky, because we're very rural.
That's it.
There's no motorway here. It's very tricky to recruit. 50% of the catchment area is the North Sea.
Yeah.
So
the biggest issue is to find people to come here, right?
yeah, because it's so rural.
Yeah.
And things like Brexit have created challenges, because we had a really good Eastern European core who they'd help with, had some chefs front of house, and then they'd bring over a relative for a season. You can't do that now, you know, and once they've gone back to their country for a year, I think, or I can't remember what the parameters is, then they lose that right to come to the UK. So
That status to come back.
yeah,
That is a shame, actually.
yeah. But I think this year more than most, I think we've had lots more opportunity for local people. You know, a lot more people want to come and work here. We're a small village, small, rural, affluent village. There's not a lot of people in the village that would like to work here, and then the nearest town is
King's Lynn.
we've got Hunstanton and King's Lynn, so they have to travel. So it does, you know, it creates challenges.
The very beginning of this pub. How old is this pub?
I think the original license can be traced back to 1839.
1839.
That was the original license. However, I think the building was knocked down and rebuilt a couple of times, and since then and now, most recently 1939, I think that was when you can access the original archive with the old landlords and see the history of the pub. So yes, definitely 1939 as the White Horse. Then it changed to the Lobster Pot in the 80s, and then back to the White Horse in 1996.
Back to original
Yeah.
pub name.
Yeah.
Okay, when did you step in here?
I've been here 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, celebrated 10 years this year actually. Started as assistant manager.
Assistant manager.
And then my boss, who was general manager at the time, she went on maternity leave, and I took on as acting general manager, and we had a great year. We were quite lucky. We had great weather and had 2 Easters in the financial year, and yeah, it was hard to demote me back down to assistant manager when she came back off maternity leave. So she got a promotion to area manager. So she looks after all the pubs in Norfolk. And yeah, I've been a general manager here now, coming up for 9 years now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice experience, actually.
Yeah.
What was the beginning looks like when you step in here as a general manager? What was the most challenging for you?
Well, I think I can remember the first day or first week. It was Good Friday, so really busy bank holiday. My boss, Christina, she had the evening off, so I was in charge of the business for the first time without her being in the building. And we had a power cut. Yeah, the building was absolutely heaving. We had a power cut. All the owners, the directors, the family, they'd come up to Norfolk to enjoy the bank holiday and the great weather. And it's the first time that I'd met some of them. And yeah, it was a real baptism of fire. So running around like headless chickens, trying to update all the residents in the rooms, and just trying to mitigate the impact of not having power. So yeah, that was certainly the first memory of or the first challenge of working here. Yeah, like we touched upon earlier, it's like the biggest challenge is certainly recruiting the right people. You know, the talent pool is quite small because we are in rural England. So I'd say that is probably one of the biggest challenges we've got here.
When you start at the very beginning, did you have the vision in your head how this pub must look like? With the culture and the people around you?
I think, no, I didn't. I started in an already well-established team.
It was well established, you say?
Yeah, the team was already well established. You know, we had people who had been here a lot longer than I had. And, you know, for the first few months I just observed and to see where I can positively affect, you know, what they're already doing and try and amplify all the already great things that they were doing. And, you know, I'm very passionate about hospitality and certainly people and food. And it's like, right, how can I, you know, impact what we're already doing, you know, in a good way, you know, not trying to change the world, but just enhance what we're already doing. You know, and they, you know, we're talking 10 years ago now, so social media wasn't really a big thing then, you know, so there was a real opportunity for us to enhance our social following. You know, when we took over, I think Facebook had 600 followers and Instagram had 300 followers, and you know, today we've got 82,000 followers on Facebook, 46,000 on Instagram, and you know, it's a real big community. And you know, one of the biggest assets that we've got is, you know, it's our shop window. And you know, if we're going to put a special on or we've got an event, you know, the first place we go is social media and post it on there.
What do you think the social media, how big the impact was when you started off trying to post the news about the pubs and stuff like that?
Yeah, so you sort of learn a lot. You know, the algorithm and things are changing all the time, but certainly in those early days, it was just posting regularly. You know, what do people want to see? Pictures of food, pictures of the team, pictures of the view. You know, I bought a drone because we've got such an amazing view, and you know, I found that a lot of people would drive past on the busy coast road and not necessarily come in here.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, right, how can we market this to the world? So bought a drone and placed it up there overlooking the building with, you know, the marshes out the back, and tried to sell it to the world really. And you know, I credit with that as one of the most important things for putting certainly this business on the map is, you know, marketing where we are in the country and the great view and the sunsets that we get.
So that's what you bring to this business, all the marketing and social media stuff?
That's certainly social media, yeah. They've already got a great marketing team. But my area of expertise, which I've learned over the years, is certainly, you know, the sort of social aspect of it and just understanding how important it is, you know, just posting regularly, posting constantly, because people want to see that firsthand. You know, it's not necessarily about polished photos and polished videos, and you know, the best camera that you've got is the one that's on you. That's the one that's in your pocket, really. So,
what was that surprise moment when you say, "Wow, that actually works"?
The first one is definitely linked to social media.
Social media.
Yeah. So we had an event. It was seafood barbecue and bouillabaisse.
Seafood barbecue.
Yeah, seafood barbecue and bouillabaisse, and this was before the marsh side was even a thing. We had a beautiful patch of grass there that overlooked the marshes, and we said, right, we'll put a marquee down here. We're going to do a seafood barbecue and bouillabaisse in a very simple bar. You know, we posted it on social media 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
We had one chef down there and 2 front of house. It was a Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock till 10 o'clock. And we've done 2 or maybe 3 social media posts, and 180 people turned up.
180 people turned up. Wow.
180 people turned up, and we'd completely underestimated the reach of the social channels and, you know, the product that we wanted to serve. And, you know, we'd underestimated it massively, that, you know, there was a queue for 2 hours for people to get in.
Wow.
So that was the real moment where I thought, wow, we've got a lot of power in this tool now. How do we maximise that? You know, because we've posted 3 times and 180 people have turned up just for this small event, or what we thought was going to be a small event. So yeah, that was definitely one of the light bulb moments where, right,
that works.
People want entertainment, they want an experience. So that was the event part of it, and obviously the social media part of it was, you know, getting that message out there. So yeah.
To manage all the load, what comes with the customers, right? How to get everything smooth, to bring the care and pride on the plates?
I think
this is where your knowledge kicks in, right?
Yeah, so I think, you know, having a great team obviously helps that. With an aligned vision, we've got a very simple mission statement that we just want to make people happy, which sounds simple. It's a lot
very simple.
It's a lot more difficult than that, but we're in moments of doubt about the pathway, about making a certain decision. Yeah. You know, we always refer back to our core values and our mission, which is to make people happy. You know, and that goes for the guests, but it also goes for the staff as well. You need to have a happy workforce to be able to deliver, you know, the experiences that we strive to deliver, and, you know, to keep people coming back. You we've got a phenomenal view out there, and I think everything needs to match that, if not exceed that. From a warm welcome to, a great plate of food to an incredible experience. Everything needs to live up to the hype on the social media, the view when you walk in, and the prices that we're going to charge. That comes from having great people with an aligned vision on what we want to achieve, and that, that's just to make people happy.
But 180 people comes unexpected, right? You didn't expect that. How to manage everything? Do you have to plan ahead for this, or when it comes in, you haven't got the products to make a food and stuff like that? How to manage that?
So our head chef Fran, she's been here 30 years.
30 years.
I've been here 10 years. I've got a hotel manager who's been here 12 years. So we've got a real consistent team. Restaurant manager, been here 3 years. So they all know what they're doing, and I've got a lot of confidence in them making the right decisions, and not to be afraid to make their own decisions for the business. It is quite intense. We are serving large volumes of people, and we're always adjusting and adapting the infrastructure to try and match the volume of people, because we are getting busier as, social channels grow. More people want to come here because they see the view, they see the food, they see all this viral content, and we're not always prepared for it. But as long as people learn from the mistakes, if they underorder or, but we're flexible. We print the menus in-house, so if something's not in, or we'll just reprint the menus the next day. So
the next day you can reprint the whole menu?
Not the whole menu, but you can adjust it if there's a product that goes out of season, or, we've underordered something, or something sells out.
That's interesting. Goes out of season. What does that mean? How the product can go out of the season?
So we use a lot of seasonal products where possible, So mussels, the mussel season, depending on the weather, September/October, all the way through till March, but they're not always ready at the end of September. If we had a particularly warm summer, or a particularly cold summer, that can accelerate or delay the readiness of that product. Things like lobsters, although there's not a defined season, there's times in the year where they become more expensive to buy, so they're not viable to put on the menu because they'll be at a price point that the guest might not necessarily want to pay. Things like asparagus, they've got quite a short season in the year. Samphire, which grows on the coastline, quite a short season. So our menu is heavily focused on seasonality. You're not going to see blackberries in the middle of summer on there, or strawberries in the middle of winter, for instance.
What benefits is from that? Because to source naturally, it brings the high quality for the foods, right?
Yeah. So we're passionate about provenance. From the local area. You don't want to be importing things because it's not great for the environment. Yeah. So they need to be local, they need to be sustainable, because there are values that are important to us and the chefs and the local environment. So it creates challenges, because sometimes seasons are shorter or longer than year on year. But it has its benefits, because it shows that we're authentic and that we're delivering our promise, which is to be as sustainable as possible, And if it is locally sourced and seasonal, then you're feeding into the microeconomy. We get our oysters from the marshes. We buy them from the fishermen next door. They then invest their money into the local community, and it just has a positive impact on local communities. So.
How many different accounts of the suppliers your pub is managing, or is that somebody else is doing it?
So
is it your responsibility?
No. So we are all responsible for supplier relationship, but the accounts are managed by head office.
Head office.
Yeah, head office look after that. So we've got a great infrastructure. Of a head of food, and the head chefs have all got their own relationships with different suppliers, but they're sort of the accounts are managed by sort of one person, really.
By one person?
Yeah.
All right.
In food, and then one person for the drinks and beverages. So yeah, there's lots of accounts. We've tried to as we've grown as a company, we've tried to streamline them to make things easier to manage for those people. But we all have autonomy at each pub to be able to put on certain things that we'd like to, from fish suppliers to meat suppliers.
What would you never do again, talking about the beginner's mistake?
I think, personally, just think that I know everything.
You know everything.
Yeah, we touched upon it earlier. Don't be so arrogant or ego-driven that you think you've got all the answers. Because although you may be the leader or you may be in charge, somebody in your group or in your network are going to have better solutions and better answers than you have. And don't be so proud or ego-driven that you can't listen to a junior member of staff who might have a better solution than you've got. So I'd certainly listen. We talked about that a lot earlier, is listen to your people. And I think that would be my sort of biggest mistake early in my career, was trying to think that I knew it all before I actually did.
Let's go back to the menu. How does the research of new ideas looks like? We've been talking about that before, but we can come back to this.
We employ over 100 people, so everybody's got an idea and an input. And when you listen to the guests as well, about what they want. We look at social media. We go and eat out regularly as a group and as a team. Fran and me, the head chef. Just to get some inspiration. We are guided by the season and what's available from our suppliers, but just getting out there and we like to put on the plate things that we enjoy, we're passionate about, and that fits within our framework of local, sustainable seafood, and how can we put our White Horse twist on it just to make it interesting.
Okay, so you're working around the seasons, right?
We're working around the season, yeah.
That's good.
And listening to the feedback, if something's not working, as we've got the agility to change it, we can reprint the menu tomorrow, if we wanted to. So, yeah.
How many people works in kitchen?
So we've got, at the height of the season, we've got 28 chefs and 28 chefs at the height of the season, and 10 kitchen porters. So big team. Keeping them motivated is sometimes a bit of a challenge, because they're long days and it's not the most sociable industry to be in. But we really believe in looking after people. All of our chefs, they do 4-day weeks.
4-day weeks.
Yeah. So they work 4 on and then 3 off where possible. Sometimes they want to work more. But as a rule, the sort of baseline is 4 days on and 3 off, just because it's healthier, it's more sustainable for them. They get time to have the rest, they get time to spend with their families and have a social life.
What motivates them to work there? What is the key to come back there for them?
I think everyone in there is really passionate about putting great food on a plate. There's a huge amount of camaraderie in the kitchen. They're working long hours together in a high octane environment. I don't think there are many kitchens like ours in the country, but it's fast paced, it's high octane. We've got a great leader in there in Fran. She's been there 30 years. We try to look after them as best as we can. We try to listen to them. We try to adapt the business to them, where possible. We're flexible, so yeah, I think it's just having some great leadership in there.
So Fran makes the job there?
Fran does an incredible job, and I don't think sometimes she gets the credit that she deserves,
Yeah.
She's a female leader in something that's often considered as a male-dominated industry, and she's been leading that brigade for over 10 years. I think she's been executive head chef for 12 years now. So she's phenomenal. Yeah, she really creates that environment that people want to work for her and for us, and yeah, she's amazing.
How much of that is positive attitude impacted?
I think 100% of it needs to be positive attitude. Even when you're not feeling positive, you've got to turn up with that positive mantra and try and pick people up when they're not positive. behind the scenes, in the office where nobody's listening, you can be negative and you can, let it out. But when you're in the kitchen, when you're around your team, you need to really turn it on and be positive, because like breeds like, and if you're going to be negative, people around you are going to be negative, and that's not really the way to run a successful business. So being positive is, needs to be 100% of the time, even if you're not feeling like it.
Once you step in, you have to deliver, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
How to remember every order? What strategy or technique you are using?
I think we've got just good systems in place.
Good systems.
Yeah. So we've got some stuff online in the cloud. We've got a huge amount of experience amongst the team. And if they do make a mistake, the first thought is, okay, this is failing forward. And what we mean by is, learn from that mistake. So if you get it wrong, okay, that's fine. Try not to get it wrong again.
Does that work? Or you still have the mistakes where it comes back again and again?
I think, I wouldn't say necessarily frequently, but mistakes do happen. We're all human. In an increasing world where AI and technology are taking over, we've still got that human connection, and at this present time, we still want our people to deliver. We want to use the technology to enhance what we're already doing. So if that can prevent a mistake, great. But essentially, we're all in control. So, that's the decisions that they make, and they're accountable for it. And they know they're accountable for it. So I wouldn't say mistakes are too frequent.
Okay. So what is the most common mistake here?
Potentially just pressing orders on tables. If we're serving 180 guests, you may get one order wrong a service, or two orders wrong a service, and we're all human, right?
Yeah, all human.
And as much as it's disruptive, it happens, and I try not to reflect too much on it, because you don't want to make somebody anxious about taking orders, because then they'll make more mistakes. So certainly taking an order from a table to entering it on the till, that seems to be probably the most common one. We employ 75 front of house members of staff, some 15 years old all the way up to 65 years old, from all walks of life, all carrying different weights and emotions, and it's only natural that people are going to make errors, so I try not to dwell on it too much, and I'm quite philosophical about it. And if somebody's repeatedly making a mistake, then is there an underlying issue that we need to have a discussion about? So.
When you're recruiting the new waiters, what is the first thing you're looking at?
Attitude, positivity, smile. You could have zero experience, but you could come in with a big beaming smile, and already, you're doing the job. So we can train all the technical stuff, we can give you the experience, but if you don't have a positive attitude or a smile, then you're on the back foot from the get-go.
Complaints. What was the most silly one you had?
Coffee too hot, I think.
Coffee
too hot, or ice cream too cold. I've had those over the years.
How can be the ice cream too cold?
Yeah, you tell me. Yeah, that's why it's bizarre.
Wow.
But everybody's got their preference and taste, right? So as much as it's bewildering, we try to deliver.
Yeah. Can you be good to everyone?
I think you can tell yourself that you can, but I think that's a myth. Perfection is
it's not possible, right?
No, it's not possible. And if you said everything's perfect, then I think you're lying to yourself. And as long as you're keeping 99.9% people happy, you're doing a good job. But you're not always going to be able to deliver somebody's expectation. See it on social media, read it in a magazine. They come with a predetermined idea of what they're going to get, and if you fall short of that, then they're going to leave not necessarily as satisfied as maybe they thought they were going to be. So we're doing thousands of covers a week, and if 10 people are unhappy, it's easy to dwell on the 10 people, but it's such a small percentage. You listen, try to adapt, and then move forward.
That's right. It's normal actually to serve some people in not the way they like. How much of your time goes for social media posts creation and posting on social media?
I'm quite obsessed by it, if I'm honest.
You're obsessed, yeah?
I am obsessed by it. I think I've got millions of ideas, but it's just millions of ideas. It does sometimes dominate the thoughts. Yesterday I was doing some stuff on my day off, social media wise, but I'd probably say 10 or 20% is sort of social and marketing and how can we get it out there. But I've always got my phone in my pocket. If I see something that I think somebody's going to like, whether it's a sunset, whether it's that beautiful view out there, whether it's taking a photo of us doing this podcast, it's something we don't try to over manufacture, because then you lose the authenticity of it. And I think, in a world where when things are becoming more over manufactured and staged, people still want that authentic post, whether it's behind the scenes, whether it's celebrating team success, whole staging certain things. Is that actually reality, what a person's going to be consuming when they come there? So we try not to over manufacture it.
So that goes a lot of time in there.
A lot of time goes into the social, yeah.
Wow. How many posts do you have on Instagram already? Is 3,000 something?
I think 6,000.
6,000, oh my God.
Okay, that's over 10 years though. So.
Over 10 years?
Yeah.
Wow, that is impressive actually.
Yeah, but we've got an incredible situation here up on the coast. It's almost easy to do. People want to see the sunset, people want to see the food, people want to see the view, people want to hear about the staff. We've got a core team that have been here, quite a while now, and they share every emotion with you. And, if somebody's getting married, or if somebody's had a baby, or if somebody's celebrating a great milestone, we like to celebrate that with the online community. So.
Okay. So when the new people comes into the business, I was telling them that you may gonna be on the phone camera, you will be filmed.
I think people are aware of it. Yeah, people are aware of it. It's pretty obvious what we're doing. And if anybody ever objects to it, of course, we'll either keep them out of it, take the post down, or. Okay. But I don't think, out of the 6,000 posts over the last 10 years, I don't think I've had any complaints.
So they're happy about that.
I think so. Yeah.
Nice. What it means for the business to win the awards 3 years in a row?
I think it's just great recognition for the staff. It's great winning awards, but the biggest award is guests that come back, staff that are happy to work here. And the awards, they look after themselves if you've got happy customers and happy guests and happy team, really. So yeah, I think it's great, but it's more of a vanity thing. Don't get me wrong, I love winning awards, but without a viable business, then the awards are nothing.
But does it help to bring the customers when you can put the certificate on the wall?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
it does.
I think with every award that we win, you get a press release. It's something to shout about. It's great PR. It's great marketing. It's gives people who haven't been before a reason to come, but evidence that we're doing a good job. So
that works as a motivation to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. How to enter the awards?
So there's sort of various categories and various awards that run throughout the year. Some we enter personally, but then some are community led and nominated. We won an award, or we became the 9th best pub in the UK at the Pub and Bar Awards this week. That was a scheme that was voted for by the industry. That wasn't something that we entered into. But there are some awards in the industry that you have to put your name forward to be considered for the award. And then obviously that triggers a judging process, and people come and visit your site and things. So yeah, there's a couple. The ones that are you enter, and the passive that people nominate you.
So how that looks like in practice? Some kind of judges comes here and taste everything, look every single corner
Yeah,
of
so
the pub?
some of it is mystery diner.
Mystery diner.
So we'll enter an award that we feel like we've got a good chance of winning, whether it's best restaurant or best pub, or and that will trigger a mystery diner. So somebody will come in undercover. They won't announce that they come in. We won't know that they're here. They'll have the guest experience, and they'll go and they'll obviously judge us on that. There's nominated visits where you show people around the business and you talk about the sustainability credentials, what we're trying to achieve, team happiness, etc. And then there are ones that people judge from online and guest votes and review feedback. So,
okay, you and your staff works endless hours here, right?
Yeah.
So, what is the main motivation for you to come back here every single day?
It's like having the ability to make somebody's day better, whether that's staff or guests. That's a big motivating factor for me. It's addictive. It's
addictive.
Yeah, it's addictive. It's infectious. That I know that I can come to work and I can make somebody feel better than when they walk through the front door. That is probably one of the most indulgent things that you can do in life. Is gift people that opportunity to feel hospitable and looked after and cared for. So that is certainly something that gets me out of the bed and comes to work. Providing great experiences for the team, for the guests.
So what motivates you the most, like a customer experience or happy staff?
I think they kind of go hand in hand.
Hand in hand, yeah.
You need to try and motivate the staff, so they can deliver a great experience for the guests. Because if you've got a team that aren't motivated, then that's very obvious to the people that come through the door. So
the vibe, the energy inside the pub, that what drives people.
And I like to think that we bring a positive energy and that people come back for that positive energy. We get universal feedback across the board as how great our team are. I'm proud of that.
Well done. Right, so it must be stressful, right, to manage all of this noise around here. How you manage that stress? Do you have anything what helps you to come back to your positive attitude?
Obviously, the experience over the last 10 years, that's, you draw on that. I've built a network of great individuals, across my career. I speak to a coach regularly, helping me unpick some ideas. I try to journal my feelings because I feel like that helps, desensitize yourself from things and helps you not dwell on things. But it's an ongoing process. Sometimes you do get stressed and overwhelmed, and I think that's okay. You're looking after hundreds of staff, hundreds of guests, and you're not always going to have the right answers. And I think coming to terms with that is something that sort of really unlocked, that burnout. Being able to switch off, try to read, trying to journal, trying to talk to people, trying to just unload with people that you trust and that are going to give you impartial advice.
Have a peaceful time with yourself, right? And talk with somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have kids, you have family, right? What would be the advice for parents? Parenting advice.
Try not to take your work home. I think that's be present when you're at home. I think they say that the average dad has 62 minutes a day with their kids, and try to make those 62 minutes count. Sometimes you can have a bit longer, sometimes you can have less. But, try and be the best you can be within those 62 minutes that you've got at home.
62 minutes, so 1 hour actually.
Yeah. That's not a lot.
That isn't a lot.
That's not a lot, but, try and make those count.
How you make them count then?
Be present. Try not to think about work.
Yeah.
Put your phone down. And it's easier said than done, but as long as you're aspiring to be that way, because your kids are going to remember those moments.
Yeah. And the last bit, randomness. Perfect breakfast routine. How does that look like?
perfect breakfast routine.
Yeah, to keep that energy level at maximum.
Three double espressos and a sausage on the go. But yeah, that's probably not the perfect one. My favourite one is cooking for the family. I think cooking for the kids and my wife, having a coffee, just being present in the moment. That's a perfect routine. Doesn't happen a lot, you know.
Yeah.
It's usually wake up, get the kids ready, feed them, get yourself ready, have some coffee, go.
Coffee and the go.
Coffee and go, yeah.
Okay. What is the one thing that brings you back to young days memories?
I think one thing that sort of resonates is just something that my granddad, who's sadly passed away, said to me, is that you don't need money to be rich. You know, and that quote sort of sticks with me quite a lot. I think, you know, when I was growing up, you know, wanted to be rich and wanted to be flash and all these things, and you know, he said you don't need to have all these things to be rich, you know, and just having your family healthy and well under one roof, you know, happy, that's as rich as you can be in life. So I think that sort of always takes me back, you know, when I'm questioning what I'm doing is right or wrong, you know, I always refer back to that quote. So yeah.
150 people in the pub, 3 staff members, and no card reader. What to do?
Smiled.
Is it enough?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think, you know, smiled, explained the situation to people, and learned from it, really. You know, we never got caught like that again, but, you know, in the moment it was incredibly stressful. You know, we talk about that as the worst day that we've had here. You know,
The worst day.
the worst day that we've ever had here. But I think people were sympathetic. They could see that we were under a lot of pressure. You know, we explained the situation to a lot of them. You know, we used all of our hospitality skills to try and make people happy. You know, whether it's getting people free drinks or, you know, little nibbles of food in the queue. And that kind of spearheaded where we are now, really, with the events and the program and our mentality. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Actually, the things like this engages the team together, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know,
Shows the strength.
yeah, you know, incredibly stressful and in the moment, but looking back at it, you know, when you have tough days, we sort of think back to that day and it's like, it's never as tough as what it was today. So, and I think it shows that no matter how bad things get, at the end of the day, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, we're here
No
10 years
matter
on. Yeah, no matter what. So, yeah, that was an incredibly challenging moment, but we live and learn.
Okay. Learn and go. What takes the most space in your head these days? What are you thinking about? What's the one that triggers you?
How my team feeling? I think that's the biggest thing that occupies my brain. How my team feeling? How am I going to keep them happy? How am I going to keep them motivated? You know, because it's hard because you're talking to a lot of people, you know, through various forms of communication throughout the day, and it's like, you know, are they happy? Just having a conversation with them, you're making them feel valued. So, you know, and how we can just be better, you know, that 1% better every day. I know it's a bit of a cliche. It's like, right, how can we be better? How can the team be better? How can I be better? You know, and that is quite obsessive, but, you know, I've come to where it's like, right, how can we be better than yesterday?
Constant improvements.
Yeah.
Okay. Fish or meat?
Oh, it's going to sound bad, but meat.
Meat.
Yeah.
Okay. Message to your friends and family and the staff members, to any of the cameras.
Just, yeah, thanks for supporting me and buying into this crazy vision that we try to deliver day in, day out. You know, it's not ever going to be perfect, but you all strive to be amazing, so well done.
And Rob, after 5 years.
Well, in 5 years' time, Rob, have a rest.
Have a rest.
Yeah, have a rest.
So I wish you to have a good rest, and it was a pleasure. Thank you
Thanks,
so
mate.
much.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.